Welcome to the Simplicity of Wellness podcast. I'm your host, board-certified holistic nutritionist and professional life coach, Amy White. The purpose of this podcast is to share information that you can use to become leaner, stronger, and healthier by losing weight, shedding inches, maintaining muscle, and managing your mind, all while living your normal, busy life in this modern, sugar-filled world. Hello, simplifiers. I've been wearing a continuous glucose monitor for the past 8 days. These little monitors last 14 days, so I'm just starting my second week of collecting my CGM blood sugar data. I'll be honest, when I decided to wear this thing, I really didn't think I'd learn anything earth-shattering. I eat a low-sugar diet with lots of protein, non-starchy vegetables, healthy fats, and fruit. At this point in my healthy diet progression, I'm more moderate carb than low carb. Most of my carbs come from fruit and starchy vegetables like potatoes, squash, carrots. I rarely eat anything that is made with grains, but occasionally I'll indulge at a restaurant and have bread or rice. At home, it's protein, non-starchy vegetables, a little fruit, protein powder, waffles, protein ice cream, and then the occasional low-carb, grain-free, sugar-free baked dessert. I consider myself a fit, glucose-tolerant person, and my blood work tends to reflect this. So again, I wasn't expecting any surprises wearing a glucose monitor. I figured I'd see an average glucose of about 85 to 90 with a lovely and minor blood sugar wave when I ate food. I really didn't know much about the data that came from a CGM. Turns out the data I've been getting about my blood sugar patterns over the last 8 days is different from what I thought it would be. This has led me to do some research about continuous glucose monitors and what the data should look like for a healthy, glucose-tolerant person. I see and hear the same things you guys do on social media, and after doing some research, I've become aware of the influencer BS, especially about blood sugar. The same BS that freaks us all out about all kinds of things, but in this case, it had me thinking my CGM data was indicating that I was pre-diabetic. My average blood sugar isn't 85, it's more like 100. My CGM is showing a lovely blood sugar wave, but it also showed what I was led to believe were blood sugar spikes. Spikes that indicated a problem because they were outside of the normal range. Let's talk about what I had heard was the normal range. A 30-point or less increase in blood sugar after eating food. Anything beyond that was considered abnormal or a spike. Based on this information, the 4 spikes I've had over the last 8 days would indicate that I was not as glucose tolerant as I thought. This didn't feel right to me, so I decided I needed to understand where the idea of 30 points being a normal response came from. Based on my research, there are papers that describe an average glucose rise after meals to be 30 points. The important word here is average. This means for the healthy glucose-tolerant person, blood sugar can go up less than 30 points or more than 30 points, with the average being 30 points. The other important thing to know about this 30-point average number is that it's an average of all blood sugar rises, not just the jumps that come from food. Blood sugar increases from stress, exercise, and food, and all 3 of these things were included in the calculation that determined the idea of 30 points being an average change in blood sugar. There was a study mentioned that focused on young, lean, healthy, glucose-tolerant people to help determine what the real healthy range of glucose is after meals. For the most glucose-tolerant people on the planet, young, healthy, fit men and women, the normal average blood sugar response to food ranged from 39 to 50 points, with the high side of this average exceeding 60 points. So the idea that any blood sugar response outside of a 30-point increase is bad and even dangerous is very misleading. Based on the research that I've found from diabetes experts and researchers, for the glucose-tolerant population, so people who are not insulin resistant, don't have prediabetes or type 2 diabetes, the ideal range that blood sugar will rise and fall on any given day is between 70 and 140, with very rare and brief swings into the 140 to 180 range, but never exceeding 180. Let me explain the difference between normal glucose tolerance, prediabetes, and type 2 diabetes. A healthy glucose-tolerant person will have a fasting blood sugar of 100 or less and a hemoglobin A1C level of 5.7 or less. Hemoglobin A1C, or HbA1c, is the blood test that looks at a 3-month snapshot of your fasting glucose levels. It is a blood test that doctors use to diagnose prediabetes and type 2 diabetes. Prediabetes is defined as having a fasting glucose of 100 to 126 with an HbA1c level of 5.7 to 6.5. Type 2 diabetes is defined as having a fasting blood sugar level of 126 or more and an HbA1c level of 6.5 or greater. So while the blood sugar range for a healthy glucose-tolerant person is 70 to 140, this does not mean that having an average blood sugar at the top of this range, near 140, is healthy. It's not. The range indicates the area that your blood sugar will rise and fall during a typical food day. Based on this information, a true blood sugar spike that would indicate a problem would be 180 or greater. Your normal blood sugar will likely be between 70 and 140 at any given point during a day. If you see your blood sugar go between 140 and 180 and hang there for an hour or more on any given day, it could be a sign that you are becoming intolerant to glucose or are already intolerant to glucose. This would be a good time to check in with your doctor and get some lab work done. If your blood sugar goes between 140 and 180, the time spent in that range is more likely to be cumulative over the course of the day. So short bursts from several meals adding up to an hour or more rather than just one long hanging jump from a single meal. Basically, you want to take notice if you're seeing your blood sugar higher than 140 on kind of a regular basis and the time in that range is equal to an hour or more. A healthy glucose response will show your starting blood sugar at the beginning of a meal, then bump up, possibly as high as 60 points, maybe even a little more, but then returning to your starting blood sugar level within 2 hours. If your blood sugar is hanging in the high part of the healthy range or higher 2 hours after a meal on a regular basis, this may also indicate an intolerance to glucose due to insulin resistance. Keep in mind, if you follow a low-carb diet and only eat protein and non-starchy vegetables, your blood sugar won't rise significantly after that type of a meal. This doesn't necessarily mean you're glucose tolerant. What it shows is that there isn't a lot of sugar in your food. To get a true assessment of your glucose tolerance, you need to include carbohydrates like grains, starchy vegetables, or fruit. Most of my meals fall into that category of low sugar. But one of my regular meals is a mixed meal with fruit, and not just any fruit, pineapple, a high sugar fruit. I tested my cottage cheese and pineapple bowl several times. My blood sugar is back to baseline within an hour and a half. I was so happy to see this because I love pineapple. Another one of my favorite meals is a big mixed veggie salad with about 60 grams of cottage cheese, a balsamic drizzle, and an 8-ounce pork chop. Now, I had this meal the other day and was surprised to see my blood sugar go as high as it did, but within 2 hours, I was back to my blood sugar baseline. I had pork loin with 310 grams of roasted carrots the other day. Just to be clear, 310 grams of roasted carrots is 10 ounces of carrots, a family-sized portion. That is a lot of carrots. I love these carrots. They taste like candy when we roast them. Probably not the best food for me because they do set off my sweet tooth, hence the ginormous serving. For this meal, my blood sugar started at 93, went to 146, which was a 53-point jump, but was back down to 90, less than where I started at the 2-hour mark. I did have one meal last week that shot my blood sugar up and kept it up. It was a mixed meal, but I suspected that my Costco egg bites might have been the problem, so I decided to test those separately. My blood sugar started at 99, went up to 145, a 46-point jump, and at 2 hours was still a little elevated at 119. Not terrible, but also not back to my baseline within 2 hours. The Costco egg bites will become a rare food for me. If I want to eat egg bites, I'll make my own. I also tested my homemade egg bites, barely a change in my blood sugar. I think it was like a 2-point blip. One last thing I want to mention before I summarize. High glucose in the morning. This is a real thing, and it's called the dawn phenomenon. It's normal to see your blood sugar increase as you start your day. This is due to your body releasing cortisol, which is also normal in the morning. It's your body's wake up and get going hormone. If you're wearing a CGM and your waking glucose is typically higher than 100, that can indicate prediabetes. If it's higher than 126 on the regular, that can indicate type 2 diabetes. The dawn phenomenon will be more pronounced for those with prediabetes and type 2 diabetes. Prior to wearing my continuous glucose monitor, I always thought my morning blood sugar was too high. It was always a little over 100. I was testing it with a handheld finger stick glucose monitor, which means I wasn't testing until I was already out of bed and starting my day. My CGM has given me new data about my waking glucose. I was happy to discover that my waking blood sugar isn't as high as I thought it was. My blood sugar at the moment I wake up and start thinking about my day averages out to be 85, with an average jump to 105 after I get out of bed. Then it tends to fall back down before I eat my first meal. Without my CGM, I thought my waking blood sugar was over 100, which could indicate glucose intolerance and prediabetes. Let's summarize all this. A continuous glucose monitor is a great way to evaluate your level of glucose tolerance. It can be an opportunity to see if there is a reason to want to check in with your doctor. There are a lot of people who have been diagnosed with prediabetes and even type 2 diabetes, but it's believed that there are many more who have these conditions and don't know it. If you are wearing a CGM, here's what you want to watch for. Blood sugar falls within the range of 70 to 140 typically throughout the day. Maybe a few brief jumps between 140 and 180, but this would be rare, and the time spent in that range would be very brief. A normal and typical blood sugar jump from any meal or snack would be anywhere from a few points to 60 or maybe even a little bit of a higher jump. You'd want to see your blood sugar jump come back to where it was before you ate within 2 hours after eating. You want your waking blood sugar to be below 100. Anything outside of these ranges would suggest a call to your doctor for some metabolic testing. While a CGM is something that I can offer to my private clients, I don't actually think it's necessary unless they really want the data. I run an extensive metabolic lab panel for my coaching clients to get their baseline data. Everything I do with my clients in my coaching program is to reset metabolic hormones and improve glucose tolerance. I typically run a second set of labs at the end of 12 weeks to confirm a return to metabolic balance, which would indicate a healthy tolerance to glucose. If you'd like to talk about becoming a client and resetting your metabolic hormones so that you can lose weight and keep it off, please click the link below to schedule your first free consult. That's it for today. I will be back in the next episode. Do you like the idea of eating for the body you want? Is there a piece of you that's eager to learn how to become leaner, stronger, and healthier without having to overhaul your entire life? If this is you, then you're in luck, because this is what I do. I can help you reconnect and work with your body so that you can enjoy the body comfort and confidence you deserve eating foods you love. Click the free consult link in the show notes. Let's talk about where you are, what you want, and how you can get there.